don't you guys just love ordering stuff and having it come in? It's like Christmas every single time I get something. Woo! Random parts, battery charger, cables, strap. And for the main attraction, we got a Nikon Z50. Let's get on with the video. What's up guys, a project photography back into the video, and today people, if you have watched any of my videos, you guys know that I love my Nikon Z6 and I love it to death, and I've been using it for a while now. I've been using it for about a year and a half or so, but recently I picked up the Nikon Z50 and man, this thing is incredible. But you guys are probably wondering, why would you pick up a Z50 if you own a Z6? Well, that's because of a few good reasons. And the first one is because I actually need a secondary video camera. So for my YouTube channel and for other ventures that I do, I usually need a second video camera majority of the time that I'm shooting. So I picked up a Nikon Z50 and an 18-55 AF-P for the F mount, and I just adapted it straight to the Z50. It is an absolutely phenomenal combo and it produces amazing images and quality. Now, they came out with the 16-50 kit lens for this, but honestly, I wasn't about to pay $300 for something that I was just going to use for video, so the 18-55 does that job very well. So this begs the question, if I was using the Z6 for most of my video stuff, what was my secondary video camera before? So what I was using then was a Fujifilm X-E3. It's an absolutely phenomenal video camera. Really cheap when I bought it. I picked it up for like 300 bucks. So it's an absolutely great camera. Just the problem was I didn't want to have to be working between two different files. I didn't want to have to work between a Nikon file and a Fujifilm file. The quality that camera produced was absolutely fantastic, but I just didn't want to be working between those two. So what I did was I got rid of the Fujifilm and picked up a Z50, So far I'm really happy with this. It's pretty much a mini Z6, which I really, really like. It doesn't have as good great quality as the Z6, and it just doesn't have like N-Log and all these other sort of features, but the image quality this thing produces as a secondary video camera does the job just fine, and it does everything I need. The only downside is that why is this a flip down screen? Literally with the 14-30 I can't see myself when I'm filming, which is kind of a bummer, but honestly it's fine. I can live with it. I never had a flip down screen or flip up screen with the Nikon Z6 in the first place, so this one doesn't have it either, or it does have a flip down screen, but it's pretty much unusable. Now, the second reason why I bought this camera is because I actually needed a second photo camera. Now you might be thinking, Zach, didn't you have a Nikon D3S? And I did, but then I had to sell it because of a few reasons. And one of them is just because, I don't want to stick with the F mount for super long. Eventually, I want to be able to transfer all of my F mount lenses to Z series lenses and go full on into the Z system from there. And I just felt like the D3S wasn't gonna be in my long-term future. Now, I love that camera. You guys, I gave a great review on it, and it's probably one of my best videos I made to date, but the problem is it just doesn't fit with what I'm trying to do in the future. Now, this Z50, I don't think matches up to the photo standards that the D3S does. The D3S has amazing output, has great autofocus, and you know what? The Z50 is similar to the Z6 when it comes to autofocus, and the tracking on this thing turns out very, very well and works very good, and the output still looks amazing. And when you look at even just the image quality or little things like the ISO performance, this thing performs really, really well. So I need a second video camera and I need a second photo camera in the Z series. Now, you might be asking yourself, why don't you just pick up a second Z6 or maybe a Z7? And to tackle that issue, it's based on price. The Z50 is really, really cheap, and it's a good value for what it is. It's $700 that I bought it off of eBay used. I don't buy my stuff new because, that's just really expensive, and if I could buy it used and it does the same thing, why not do just that? So I bought this thing off of eBay for $700, and versus if I were to buy a Z6, that would be around $1,400, and I don't want to do that. It's just too much money that I don't need to be spending, and this thing does the trick really, really well. It does everything I need it to do, and overall, I'm just really happy with it so far. I got it, I think, a few days ago, and so far that I've been using it, it's done everything I needed to do. I've went on a few photo shoots with it. I've done a few professional works with it actually, and the images it produces, it's so incredible. You know, the Nikon Z series cameras and just the Nikon output is something that I really love and I rave about all the time. And is the reason why I'm not going to switch from Nikon to any other system. And the Z50 falls right in that line. That's something I love about this camera. So I'm here at one of my local parks. I'm going shooting around, showing you guys some test files and showing you guys some just footage from the Nikon Z50 because I really love this camera, and I'll show you guys what it can produce. But as for the reasons why I bought this camera, it's for secondary video, it's for secondary photo, and because the price is really, really good. It's a great thing. And for the amount of camera you're getting out of this thing, for the price is absolutely stunning. So all the footage you're gonna see of me shooting with the camera is gonna be straight from the Z50. So let's go ahead and get right into shooting. What's up guys, we're now behind the scenes, behind the camera. And a few things that I want to talk about when it comes to the Z50 is the shooting experience. You know, I've been using Z50 for a little over a few weeks now, and I really like this camera. The great thing I like about this versus the Z6 is that it offers a great alternative if I want to carry something light. You know, being a lighter body makes me more tempted to carry lighter lenses. So I mentioned in this video that I'm in love with the 14-30 combo and the Z50, and it's true because this combo is insane. Not only is the 14-30 an extremely light lens, but it's also a great focal length at a 21-45 equivalent roughly. I'm gonna make a separate video about that individually, but I really like that combo, and the images it produces are absolutely incredible. And if you want some sample images, well, you're getting some on the screen right now. The images you're seeing is out of the 14-30 and the Z50, and you can tell they are producing incredible results. So I'm very happy with the images that are coming out of this thing, and it's a Nikon camera, so the images should be great. One thing I forgot to mention on the photo side of things is that with the Z50, I'm actually gonna be using it as a secondary landscape photography camera. My main one is giving me my Z6 with the 14-30, and then my secondary body is this Z50 with the 70-300. Now, why would I want two bodies for landscape photography? The main thing is because I don't want to have to switch out lenses when I'm shooting landscape photography. And here's the thing, when you're shooting landscape photography, and you're in the conditions, you're in snow, you're in places with a lot of dust, you're in places with a lot of seawater and salt, you don't want to have to be switching lenses in those conditions because you're risking getting stuff on the sensor. So by having two bodies, I don't got to switch out. I just got to get my camera from my backpack and put the other one in. So this thing is going to be absolutely perfect as a second landscape photography camera because, you know, it's small, lightweight, compact, and it just does everything you need. And I'm going to stick my telephoto on it. So it's going to be doing a lot of work, and I'm really excited to use this on the field. Now, a question I think a lot of people are going to be asking is like, why are you going to use a crop sensor body for landscape photography? And that's a valid question, you know. I think a lot of people think that full frame is the only way to go when it comes to landscape photography. But for me, I've seen the output from this thing and it produces incredible images. And the 20 megapixel sensor actually doesn't bother me at all because with my telephoto lens, I'm mainly going to be shooting a lot of panoramas, and that thing can go to 880 or 100 megapixels. So the 20 megapixel count actually really does not hurt me that much. So yeah. The only concern I really have is that with a 70-300, it doesn't become a 70-300 on a crop sensor body. What it becomes is 105-450. And what I'm worried about is on the wide angle part of things is that not sure if that's going to be a problem. It's going to be too cropped in or whatnot. I'm not going to be able to get that wide field of view. That's the only thing I'm really worried about. But other than that, I think this is going to be an absolutely amazing option, mainly because of lightweight. And, you know, having a second body for landscape photography is always a good thing. And by the way, that whole part was just shot with the Z50 for video. If you're curious how the Z50 video looks, that's what it looks like. Alright, we're now back again. I'm talking to y'all behind the camera. And this is a park that I've gone to multiple times, and I kind of just want to point out that, you know, the images might not be fantastic, and I'm also not editing any of the images because I want you guys to see the kind of image quality you're getting. But yeah, I've been to this park multiple times right by my house. It's a really nice park actually. It's just, you know, not feeling as inspired as I normally am because, you know, I've been here so many times. But I mean, you're just getting to see, you know, what I'm doing, you know, all that good stuff. But the great thing I love about the Z50 is that it carries over a lot of the same features and a lot of the same kind of feeling of using a Z camera. Nikon does a great job in consistency in terms of when you use a Z camera, the next camera that you can use that's a Z camera is also going to feel the same. Same thing with the F-mount bodies, you know. Switching over from a DSLR to a Z series camera was actually pretty flawless and seamless. It felt the same, all the controls are the same, and the Z50 is no different. It operates very similarly to the Z6. Including click your buttons, not as mushy as Z6 as I mentioned later in the video. But overall, the experience of actually using it is really good. I'm really happy to use it, and it's a joy to use. So one thing I really want to talk about when it comes to the Nikon Z50 is overall handling and feel. You know, when you pick up this camera relative to the Z6, you're going to notice that it's quite small. It's a really small camera relative to the Z6, and this may be a good thing or maybe a bad thing. But one area where it's not necessarily a good thing is when you're balancing longer lenses. Like when I was using my 70-200 f2.8 Nikon, it just felt really small, and it just felt like the mount was gonna break off, and I just didn't feel right when handling it. Versus when I use my Z6 with the 70-200, everything feels good, everything is really smooth, and it doesn't feel like I'm gonna break the camera. That's one pitfall that I think about the Z50, but if I'm using lenses like this Nikon 14-30, it does a really good job when it comes to handling. Small lenses like that perform extremely well on the Z50, and it feels really comfortable in the hands. And this combo right here is probably my favorite lens camera combo of all time. Like, this is absolutely stellar, and I'm probably making a video about this combo specifically, going over more of like kind of like how the camera feels. As you guys know, this has a smaller EVF than the Z6. Another part that's different is that it doesn't have a joystick on the back. Kind of sucks, I wish it did, because the joystick is probably one of my favorite things to use on the Z6 and just any camera in general. A joystick makes the user experience way better and much easier to navigate menus and move around focus points and lovely things like that. But I think because of the great autofocus tracking that the Z50 and Z6 has, a joystick becomes less of a necessity and more of kind of like a want. If I had that, I think the handling would be absolutely perfect. But like I said, this thing is much lighter, much smaller. Another thing that kind of stands out is that it's very plasticky. You know, when you touch it and when you feel it, compared to the Z6, it feels very plasticky, it feels kind of cheap. But I think a good thing about that is that it keeps the weight down. You know, I think this is around 400 grams. Compared to the Z6, it's like 667 grams. So it's about 50% lighter than the Z6. And that's overall a good thing. But when it comes to the user feel and user experience, it does kind of take off of how it feels in the hands and holding it. But other than that, it's the great same Nikon feel as usual. The grip is nice and deep. Not as deep as the Z6, of course, but it works really, really well, and I really like it a lot. You know, when you're holding this camera, when you're feeling it and using it, it feels really nice, and it's just something that you'd want to throw in your backpack and take around with you because it's not so heavy. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but the buttons feel much clickier. And when I press it, it has a solid, it gives some solid feedback versus a Z6. The buttons are kind of mushy, and I didn't really notice that until I picked up a Z50. You know, it comes down to personal preference. What do you like? What do you want? But I think they're able to make it a bit clickier because it's made mostly out of plastic. So having the buttons more clickier gets that nice feedback, and I really like that a lot. Even the F1, F2 buttons right here versus the Z6, of course the Z6 kind of has a different type of motion. These are feeling more like buttons, where the Z6 kind of feels more like switches. I'm not sure how to explain it, but if you've used a Z6 or a Z7, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Overall though, I actually really like the handling a lot. I think it has a lot going for it, and it just depends what lens you use on it, you know? If you're using something like a 200 or 500 Nikon, it's not gonna balance well with this lens, and you're just not gonna have this to the best experience. But using smaller, lighter lenses with this camera makes it feel really, really good. And I think that's this whole purpose of buying this camera, is you want something smaller, lighter, be able to just throw in your backpack and use wherever you want. And I really am really starting to like this camera a lot. The photo capabilities are great. You know, the tracking autofocus works really, really well. Image quality is outstanding. You know, compared to the Z6 that has amazing ISO performance, this thing, I don't say it competes with it on the same level, but it's definitely up there with the big dogs, you know. Nikon has done a really good job with this camera. I really like how it feels, the nice dials, and just everything about this camera is really nice. Just again, wish it had a joystick, and if I don't understand why it's a flip down screen. If you just made it flip out, that'd been way better. I don't understand why they did that. Yeah, overall handling is really nice on this camera. I gallery. Now back again. There's not really much to shoot here, you know, again, because I've been here a lot. But I'm just trying to test out and see what the image quality looks like. And the colors and rendition, everything is so gorgeous from this camera. I love it to death. And, you know, I just really enjoy the experience of using it. You know, when it comes to camera gear, experience is probably the most important thing for me when it comes to using camera, because a camera can be technically perfect. You know, it could have all the bells and whistles, but if it just doesn't feel right in the hands or doesn't operate the way I want it to, then it just really degrades the feeling of using it, and I won't get as inspired and won't really want to go out and shoot with this. So the experience of this camera, absolutely phenomenal. As you can see with the image quality, definitely stacks up with things like the Z6. So the Nikon image quality is a plus, and the experience of using this camera is absolutely great. So there's a few other things I kind of want to mention about the Z50 and why I picked it up. And the first one is I really want to transition fully into the Nikon Z system. I have full and utter faith in Nikon that they're going to come out with great cameras, they're going to come out with amazing lenses, and I've seen the quality and performance of these lenses in this system, and I really have a lot of faith. You know, everything from the ergonomics to how these things feel, the mirrorless system that they've created, I think is probably my favorite out of any other system. You know, and when you look at things like Sony and the Canon, the EOS R5 and the Sony a7S III or the a7R Mark IV, you know, on paper, those specs are great. They produce great results. I'm not denying that. But what I love about Nikon and their system is the fact that the experience is like no other. The Nikon colors, the Nikon files are amazing to work with. The feel and the experience that you get with a Nikon camera, I really don't feel like I get with any other system. Yeah, there might be better spec cameras other than the Z50 or even the Z6, but to me, it doesn't matter because that's not what is holding me back from creating amazing images. What's holding me back is all up here. It's all about me as a photographer and me as an individual, not just like the cameras and whatnot. You know, I feel like the autofocus tracking is good enough. It's good enough for what I do. It's good enough for what I need. And even for sports situations, I've used the Z6. I've used it to shoot baseball. I've used it to shoot action and wildlife, and it performed very, very well. So the Nikon Z50 has the exact same autofocusing system as the Z6, if not slightly better. So I have absolute and utter confidence in this camera to produce amazing results. That's not the thing that's going to be holding me back. Maybe Canon and Sony have better specs. Maybe Fujifilm has better specs. But to me, the experience and what I get out of these cameras is unlike any other. So that's why I can buy into a Nikon Z50 with full confidence that it's going to satisfy my experience as a user. People make complaints that, oh, it doesn't have 2 card slots, it doesn't have IBIS, but you know what? Like, those are things that I feel like I don't really need. They're wants, but I don't need them. I don't ever feel like I've ever needed 2 card slots because, first of all, I never had a card fail on me. And I know writing redundant is better than not writing redundant, but I just don't feel like I ever need it. I've never needed to use a second card. Things like that, you know? With my Z6, the XCD card does an incredible job. With the Z50, I'm honestly fine with 1 card. And IBIS, you know what? You know, most of these lenses have image stabilization. If it doesn't, oh well, I can live with it. This lens doesn't, the 14-30. I think I chose the crop sensor size sensor for a specific purpose. And the main purpose for that is I get 2 lens focal lengths for the price of 1. Now let me explain. A 14-30 on a Nikon Z6 would be just that, a 14-30. But if I throw on a crop sensor DX50 or a Z50, you know what it gives me? It gives me a 21-45. So with just this one lens, I get 2 focal lengths that I wanted, you know? The 21mm to 45 is essentially a 20-50. And in one of my previous videos, I talked about my lenses on my Nikon wishlist, and a 20-60mm round is one that I was really hoping they would make. And with the Z50, I get just that. It's really exciting. I'm really excited to use this and just shoot with it and whatnot. And you know, this applies to every lens across the board. A Nikon 200-500 on a crop sensor body like this becomes a Nikon 300-750. That is absolutely incredible. Like, you get 2 different focal lengths for the price of 1. You get that extra reach and you get that different look. Another example, a 70-200 f2.8. It becomes a 105-300 f2.8. I'm really excited to use this. I just love that, you know, the crop sensor does work when using other focal lengths. I'm able to have multiple focal lengths in one. I'm really excited to transition fully to the Nikon Z system. All the lenses I'm buying from now on are probably going to be Z series lenses because I know they produce amazing quality, amazing results. And you know what? Yeah, Nikon does not necessarily produce the best spec cameras. You know, Sony and Canon, I'll admit, take the cake on that, but I'm not going to get the experience of a Nikon camera like I do from Sony and Canon, and that's what keeps me in this system. That's pretty much it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think of the Z50 I love this camera to death so far, and it's doing an incredible job for me. And I'm really enjoying using it, and hopefully I'm able to do what I want with this camera. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one.